Welcome, the spicy lady. A person who cannot control your mind will often try to control the story told about you. That simple truth explains more about human behavior than most people realize. That if you have ever noticed people treating you differently without a clear reason, there's a chance they were reacting to what you represent rather than what you actually did. Some people become uncomfortable when they meet someone who cannot be easily pressured, distracted, or manipulated. That is one of the qualities that often sets a spicy lady Sigma apart. Being the spicy lady Sigma is not about believing you are better than anyone else. It is about having the courage to think for yourself, staying true to your values when it would be easier to compromise, and learning from life's challenges without allowing them to harden your heart. Those qualities naturally attract honest people. But they also expose people who depend on control, deception, and emotional games. In this video, we will uncover 10 things evil people often do when they realize they cannot easily influence a spicy lady Sigma. These behaviors are usually subtle, which is why so many people overlook them until the damage has already been done. The more you understand these patterns, the better prepared you will be to protect your peace, your relationships, and your future. That if you recognize yourself in these qualities, never see them as a burden. They are signs of growth, wisdom, and emotional maturity that many people spend a lifetime trying to develop. Stay with me until the very end because each point adds another piece to the bigger picture, and together they will help you understand these behaviors in a completely different way. If this message speaks to you, share your thoughts in the comments. Share this video with someone who may need it and subscribe to join our growing community. Thank you for your continued support. Now, let's get started. The spicy lady. Number 1, they stop attacking your weaknesses and start inventing them. One of the biggest signs that you are dealing with an evil person is the moment they stop looking for your real weaknesses and begin creating weaknesses that never existed. At first, they pay close attention to you. They watch how you speak, how you react, and what mistakes you make. They hope to find something they can use against you. But when they realize there is nothing serious to attack, they change their strategy. Instead of exposing the truth, they start writing their own version of it. This is where false stories begin. A simple decision becomes she thinks she is better than everyone. Choosing to spend time alone becomes she believes she is too good for people. Saying no to something unreasonable becomes she has an attitude problem. Notice that none of these things are facts. They are interpretations designed to damage your reputation. Why do they do this? Because changing people's opinions is much easier than changing your character. They know they cannot force you to become someone you are not. So they try to convince others that you already are the person they invented. It is a quiet form of manipulation that spreads through whispers instead of evidence. A spicy lady Sigma often becomes a target because she does not constantly explain herself. She understands that not every misunderstanding needs a defense. Ironically, that silence gives dishonest people room to tell stories they hope others will believe. Think about a workplace where someone is consistently reliable and honest. Instead of appreciating her, a jealous coworker quietly tells others that she is cold, difficult, or impossible to work with. Before long, people who barely know her begin repeating the same story. Very few stop to ask if it is actually true. This is why wisdom matters. Never measure yourself by rumors that were created by people who could not find anything real to criticize. Lies can travel quickly, but they are still built on empty ground. Your character is not defined by the stories people invent. In the end, truth has something lies never will. It has consistency. People who truly pay attention will eventually notice the difference between a person who lives with integrity and a person who survives by creating fiction. Number 2, they create situations where you look like the aggressor. Some people are not interested in winning an argument. They are interested in winning the audience. That is why they rarely confront a spicy lady Sigma in an honest and direct way. Instead, they slowly create situations that push her to her limit, hoping that when she finally reacts, everyone will only see the reaction and never the long chain of events that caused it. This is one of the oldest tricks used by manipulative people. They poke, interrupt, dismiss, and disrespect in ways that are small enough to escape attention. They make sarcastic comments that sound like jokes. They ignore your boundaries, question your decisions, or constantly twist your words. Each act by itself seems harmless, but together they become exhausting. Then The moment you finally speak up or refuse to tolerate it any longer, they suddenly become calm and innocent. To everyone watching, it looks as though you became angry for no reason. Picture a coworker who keeps taking credit for your ideas during meetings. You let it go once, then twice, then several more times. One day, you finally correct them in front of everyone. Instead of admitting what they have been doing, they act shocked and say, "Why are you being so hostile?" The room sees your frustration, but they never saw the months of quiet disrespect that led to it. A spicy Lady Sigma often becomes a target because she is patient. She believes in giving people chances and prefers solving problems without unnecessary drama. Evil people mistake that patience for weakness. They believe if they keep pushing long enough, they can force her into a reaction that damages her image. The lesson is simple but powerful. Never judge yourself only by your worst moment. Ask what happened before that moment. Wise people understand that every reaction has a history. Manipulative people want the world to focus on the final scene, while hiding the entire story that came before it. Do not let someone else's carefully planned drama make you question your character. Protect your peace. Trust what you have experienced. And remember that people who constantly provoke others are often hoping to wear the mask of the victim when the truth finally comes out. Number 3. They recruit other people's opinions before they challenge yours. One thing manipulative people understand very well is that a crowd can be more powerful than a single voice. That is why they rarely challenge a spicy Lady Sigma by themselves. Before they ever have a conversation with her, they have already had conversations about her. They quietly collect opinions, plan doubts, and shape the way other people see her long before she even realizes anything is happening. This strategy is not about finding the truth. It is about creating the appearance of agreement. If enough people repeat the same story, many will assume it must be true without ever questioning where it started. An evil person knows that people often trust what sounds familiar more than what is actually accurate. For example, imagine someone at work who feels threatened by your competence. Instead of speaking to you directly, they begin making small comments to others. They might say, "Have you noticed she is difficult to work with?" Or, "I wonder why she always keeps to herself." These comments seem harmless, but they are carefully planted seeds. Over time, those seeds grow into assumptions. Soon, people begin looking at everything you do through the lens of a story that was never true to begin with. A spicy Lady Sigma is especially vulnerable to this tactic because she does not spend her time managing public opinion. She assumes that people will judge her by her actions. Unfortunately, manipulative people understand that many people judge first and investigate later. What makes this even more dangerous is that the people being used often do not realize they are part of someone else's plan. They think they are simply sharing concerns or passing along information. In reality, they have become messengers for a narrative they never created. This is why wisdom is so important. Never panic when you realize someone is trying to gather support against you. Public opinion changes like the weather, but consistent character does not. People who build relationships through honesty do not need a campaign to defend themselves. In time, those who pay attention will notice the difference between someone who quietly lives by their values and someone who survives by collecting allies against people they cannot control. Truth may move slowly, but it has a way of exposing motives that gossip can never hide. Number 4, they turn your kindness into an obligation. Kindness is one of the most beautiful qualities a person can have, but in the hands of an evil person, it becomes something to exploit. They do not see your generosity as a gift. They see it as an opportunity. At first, everything feels normal. You help because you genuinely care. You give your time, your support, or your advice without expecting anything in return. Then something quietly changes. What was once appreciated slowly becomes expected. The first time you help, they thank you. The second time, they assume you will say yes again. Before long, your kindness is no longer treated as a choice. It becomes a responsibility that they believe you owe them. The moment you cannot help or simply decide to say no, they act disappointed, offended, or even angry. Suddenly, you are made to feel guilty for setting a perfectly reasonable boundary. Think about a friend who constantly asks for favors. At first, you are happy to help because that is what friends do. But weeks turn into months, and every problem somehow becomes your problem. One day you are busy and politely decline. Instead of understanding, they say you have changed, or I thought I could count on you. Notice what happened. Your years of kindness are forgotten because of one answer they did not like. A spicy Lady Sigma often falls into this trap because she believes kindness should come from the heart, not from pressure. She does not keep score, and she does not help people to gain praise. Unfortunately, manipulative people mistake genuine generosity for unlimited access. They believe that because you have always been there, you always should be. The wisest lesson is this. Kindness without boundaries eventually becomes a tool for someone else's comfort while slowly draining your own peace. Real gratitude respects your limits. It never demands that you sacrifice yourself to prove you care. The people who truly value you will appreciate what you freely give, but they will also respect what you cannot give. Anyone who becomes angry the moment you set a healthy limit was never depending on your kindness. They were depending on your silence. A spicy Lady Sigma understands that helping others is a choice, not a lifelong contract. The moment kindness is treated like a debt that must always be repaid, it is no longer kindness. It has become control wearing the mask of appreciation. Number 5. They copy your identity before they attack. One of the strangest things manipulative people do is copy the very person they secretly dislike. It sounds confusing at first, but it happens more often than most people realize. Before they criticize you, they study you. They pay attention to the way you speak, the values you stand for, the way you treat people, and even the small habits that make you different. They are not learning because they admire you. They are learning because they want to borrow your credibility. At first, it can even feel flattering. You notice they begin using the same phrases you use. They suddenly become interested in the same things that matter to you. They present themselves as someone who thinks just like you. To everyone else, it looks like the two of you are very similar. That is exactly what they want. Once people begin trusting them, the next stage quietly begins. They start making small comments that create doubt about you. They might say, I used to look up to her, but I have started noticing a few things. Or, she is not always the person people think she is. These statements are carefully designed. They do not sound like direct attacks, which makes them seem more believable. They slowly chip away at your reputation while protecting their own image. Imagine someone at work who copies your ideas, your work ethic, and even your way of communicating with others. Months later, they begin telling coworkers that you are difficult to trust or that you are becoming difficult to work with. Because they have already built a similar image, people are more likely to believe them. It becomes easier to replace your influence than to compete with it honestly. A spicy Lady Sigma often notices these patterns sooner than most because she pays attention to actions instead of words. She understands that respect does not need imitation. People who genuinely admire you are comfortable being themselves. They do not feel the need to become your reflection. There is an important lesson here. Never be disturbed when someone copies your identity. Originality cannot be stolen. They may imitate your appearance, your words, or even your habits, but they cannot duplicate the life experiences, values, and quiet discipline that shaped you. In the end, borrowed character always fades because it has no roots. The truth eventually becomes clear. An imitation can attract attention for a while, but only authenticity can stand the test of time. Number 6, they try to exhaust your attention instead of defeating your mind. Some people know they cannot outthink you, so they choose a different strategy. Instead of trying to defeat your mind, they try to wear it out. They understand that a tired mind makes weaker decisions than a clear one. That is why they fill your days with unnecessary drama, endless emotional conversations, and problems that somehow always need your immediate attention. Their goal is not to solve anything. Their goal is to keep you mentally occupied. At first, it does not seem obvious. There is always another argument to explain, another misunderstanding to clear up, or another crisis that suddenly appears out of nowhere. Every conversation goes in circles. You leave feeling emotionally drained, yet nothing is ever resolved. You start wondering why the same issues keep coming back. The answer is simple. They were never looking for a solution. They were looking for your attention. Think about someone who sends long messages every time you begin focusing on your own goals. They create conflict over the smallest things and expect you to spend hours explaining yourself. By the time the conversation ends, your energy is gone. You plan to read a book, work on your business, or simply enjoy a peaceful evening. But instead your entire day has been consumed by someone else's chaos. That a spicy lady Sigma values clarity. She likes to think before making decisions and prefers meaningful conversations over constant noise. Manipulative people find this frustrating because they know that a calm and focused person is much harder to influence. So they create distractions instead. If they cannot control your thinking, they will try to interrupt it. There is a reason successful people protect their attention so carefully. Attention is one of the most valuable resources you have. Once it is scattered, your judgment becomes cloudy. You become more likely to react emotionally instead of responding wisely. The lesson is powerful. Not every problem deserves your time. Not every invitation to argue deserves an answer. Sometimes the smartest response is recognizing that the conversation itself is the trap. A spicy lady Sigma understands that peace is not only about avoiding conflict. It is also about protecting the mental space needed to think clearly, make wise decisions, and live a life that is not controlled by someone else's constant demand for attention. Number 7, they start competing in areas you never entered. One of the clearest signs that someone feels threatened by a spicy lady Sigma is that they begin competing in battles she never agreed to fight. It is a strange kind of competition because you may not even realize it is happening. While you are focused on living your life, they are busy comparing, measuring, and trying to prove they are somehow ahead of you. The reason is simple. They know character is difficult to compete with because it cannot be bought overnight. Integrity takes years to build. Self-respect comes from experience. Emotional maturity grows through challenges. Since they cannot easily match those qualities, they shift the competition to areas that are easier to display. Suddenly everything becomes about appearance, popularity, expensive possessions, social status, or how much attention they can attract. You may notice someone constantly showing off every new purchase, posting every achievement for approval, or finding subtle ways to remind others of their connections and influence. None of these things are wrong by themselves. The problem begins when they are used as weapons to make someone else feel small. Imagine meeting an old friend for coffee. You're happy to catch up and hear how life has been treating them. Instead of having a genuine conversation, they spend the entire time talking about how much money they make, the places they travel, the people they know, and the compliments they receive. Every topic quietly turns into a comparison. Even though you never started one, by the end of the meeting, it feels less like a conversation and more like a performance. A spicy lady Sigma often confuses people because she measures success differently. She values peace over applause, growth over image, and meaningful relationships over public admiration. She understands that a person can look successful on the outside while quietly struggling on the inside. That is why she refuses to build her identity around things that can disappear with time. There is deep wisdom in refusing to enter competitions that do not matter. The moment you let someone else decide what success looks like, you stop living your own life and begin chasing theirs. Manipulative people hope you will abandon your values so they can lead you onto a battlefield where appearances matter more than substance. Never feel pressured to prove yourself in contests you never entered. The greatest victories are often invisible. A peaceful mind, an honest character, strong values, and genuine self-respect will always outlast beauty, popularity, luxury, and public attention. Those things may attract eyes for a season, but character earns trust for a lifetime. Number 8, they need an audience for every disagreement. One of the most revealing habits of a manipulative person is that they rarely want to solve problems in private. They want an audience. They understand that truth is much easier to uncover in a calm conversation between two people. But once other people are watching, the goal often changes. It is no longer about finding a solution. It becomes about winning attention, collecting sympathy, and controlling the story. Have you ever noticed how some people wait until others are around before bringing up an issue they could have discussed with you one-on-one? That is rarely an accident. They want witnesses not because they value honesty, but because they value influence. They know many people judge a situation by who appears more emotional, more confident, or more convincing, instead of who is actually telling the truth. That a spicy Lady Sigma often finds this confusing because she believes problems should be handled with maturity. If there's a misunderstanding, she would rather sit down, listen, speak honestly, and move forward. She has little interest in turning personal disagreements into public entertainment. Unfortunately, manipulative people see this difference and use it to their advantage. Imagine a family gathering where someone suddenly brings up an old disagreement in front of everyone. They could have called you days earlier, but they chose this moment instead. They raise their voice, exaggerate details, and speak as if they are simply looking for answers. In reality, they are carefully performing for the people around them. The goal is not to understand your side. The goal is to make sure everyone remembers their version of the story. The same thing happens in workplaces, friendships, and even on social media. Instead of having an honest conversation, they post indirect comments, share half-truths, or involve people who were never part of the situation. The more people watching, the more powerful they feel. They confuse attention with victory. This is why wisdom is so valuable. Never mistake a loud performance for honesty. The person who is most interested in an audience is often the least interested in the truth. A spicy Lady Sigma understands that real confidence does not need spectators. It values clarity over drama and resolution over applause. When someone insists on making every disagreement public, ask yourself one simple question. If they truly wanted peace, why did they need a crowd? Very often, the audience is not there to discover the truth. It is there to reward the performance. People of integrity do not need a stage to solve a problem. They only need honesty, respect, and the courage to have the conversation where it belongs between the people who are actually involved. Number 9, they treat your patience as if it will never end. Patience is one of the most misunderstood qualities in the world. Some people see it as wisdom while others mistake it for permission. An evil person often makes the second mistake. They assume that because you have forgiven them before, you always will. Because you stayed calm yesterday, they believe you will stay quiet tomorrow. They confuse your understanding with endless tolerance, never realizing that every person has a limit. At first, the disrespect is small. They cancel plans without caring how it affects you. They borrow your time but never value it. They make promises they never intend to keep. Each time you choose peace instead of unnecessary conflict, you hope they will recognize their behavior and change. A spicy Lady Sigma believes people deserve a fair chance. She understands that everyone makes mistakes. But there is a difference between making mistakes and making a habit of disrespect. Manipulative people rarely notice that difference because they become comfortable with your patience. They begin expecting forgiveness before they even apologize. They assume your kindness has no ending. Imagine a friend who only calls when they need a favor. You answer every time because you care about them. Months go by, and you begin noticing that they disappear whenever you need support. One day you simply stop reaching out. You do not argue. You do not announce your decision. You quietly accept the truth and move on. Suddenly they are shocked. They accuse you of changing even though they were the ones who slowly damaged the relationship. This is something many spicy Lady Sigma understand with time. They rarely leave because of one painful moment. They leave because of repeated patterns that reveal a person's true character. Every broken promise, every act of disrespect, and every selfish decision quietly adds another brick to the wall until there is nothing left to rebuild. The most surprising part is that your silence often confuses the people who took you for granted. They expected another conversation, another explanation, or another chance. Instead, they are met with your absence. Not because you hate them, but because you finally understand that trust cannot survive where respect no longer exists. There is great wisdom in knowing when patience has finished its work. Patience is meant to give people the opportunity to grow. It is not meant to give them unlimited opportunities to hurt you. A spicy Lady Sigma understands that walking away is not an act of revenge. It is an act of self-respect. Some doors close quietly, But they stay close because peace becomes more valuable than keeping people who never appreciated it in the first place. Number 10, they reveal their character by trying to define yours. One of the fastest ways to understand someone's character is to pay attention to how they describe yours. People often believe labels are harmless, but they can reveal far more about the person using them than the person receiving them. When an evil or manipulative person cannot understand a spicy Lady Sigma, they often stop trying to understand her altogether. Instead, they give her a label that makes her easier to dismiss. You may hear words like cold, intimidating, proud, difficult, stubborn, or unfriendly. At first, these labels can make you question yourself. You begin wondering if you have done something wrong. But if you look closer, you may discover something surprising. Most of these opinions were formed without anyone taking the time to know who you really are. For example, you politely decline an invitation because you need time to rest. Instead of respecting your decision, someone tells others that you think you are too important to spend time with people. You choose not to join unnecessary gossip, and suddenly you are called unfriendly. You stay calm during an argument instead of raising your voice, and people say you are cold. Notice what happened. Your actions never changed. Only someone else's interpretation did. A spicy Lady Sigma understands that not everyone will understand her choices, and she is comfortable with that. She knows there is a difference between being distant and protecting your peace. There's a difference between being quiet and having nothing to say. Unfortunately, manipulative people are uncomfortable with anything they cannot easily explain. Rather than admitting they do not understand you, they create a simple label that allows them to stop thinking any further. This happens in everyday life. A hardworking woman who chooses her friends carefully may be called antisocial. A woman who refuses to tolerate disrespect may be described as difficult. A woman who thinks before making decisions may be called slow or overly cautious. These labels are not honest descriptions. They are convenient shortcuts. There is a powerful lesson here. Never allow someone else's label to become your identity. People often judge from the outside while knowing nothing about the battles, experiences, and values that shaped your decisions. Those who truly care about you will ask questions before making conclusions. They will seek understanding instead of attaching names to what they cannot explain. A spicy Lady Sigma does not need everyone to understand her. She only needs to remain true to the person she has worked so hard to become. In the end, labels fade, but character remains. The people who judge too quickly often reveal more about the limits of their own thinking than they ever reveal about yours. Final words, have you noticed that the more you understand people, the less their behavior surprises you? That is one of the greatest lessons a spicy Lady Sigma learns with time. This video was never about becoming suspicious of everyone or expecting the worst from every person you meet. It was about recognizing patterns before they become painful experiences. When you understand how manipulation works, you stop taking everything personally. You realize that many people's actions are reflections of their own fears, habits, and unresolved struggles rather than proof that something is wrong with you. The greatest strength of a spicy Lady Sigma is not that she never gets hurt. It is that she learns from every experience without allowing bitterness to define her future. She becomes wiser instead of harder. She protects her peace without losing her kindness. She chooses her relationships carefully because she understands that trust is valuable and should be earned, not freely handed to everyone. Always remember that your character is worth protecting. Never allow lies, labels, or manipulation to convince you to become someone you are not. The right people will appreciate your honesty, respect your boundaries, and value your presence without asking you to change your principles. If this video gave you a new perspective, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We would love to hear your experiences. Share this video with someone who may need this message today and subscribe to join our growing community where we continue to explore wisdom, psychology, and personal growth together. Thank you for watching and thank you for your support and God bless. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Nail polish, I'll see you in the next one.